Speaking of guests, we've got Walter Burian with us. He has been talking about the comprehensive annual financial report for quite some time. This is the so-called separate set of books that shows us that the government owns it all by investment. No, they're not the poor, stricken little government that needs to take every dime you earn and take a penny or a half a penny off of everything you buy or sell. They are the government that actually owns a good portion of Google. They are one of the main stockholders. This important now because we are in this financial crisis, this financial 9/11 as I call it. Wanted to get Walter on to talk about that. He's got quite a lot of information. Walter Burian, thank you for joining us on the show.
They own the majority of Microsoft, most of the Fortune 500 companies by composite ownership, stock ownership.
Yeah.
Investment, the banks,
Secret.
the insurance companies, primary investor. Government, they own the banks, the insurance companies, the major corporations by investment. About 5 years ago, I brought forward the aspect that the public had to start putting the pressure on the syndicated media to start mentioning the comprehensive annual financial report and the composite wealth of government. That there had been a 65-year blackout on the mention of it. You had the syndicated media in 100% cooperation with non-disclosure. Not a peep, not a word, not a mention. The old expression, if a tree fell in the forest, no one saw or heard it fall, did it actually fall? They've been playing that game for 65 years as they've taken over the wealth of the country through, the annual financial reporting and accounting structure and presenting selectively created budget reports to the population to view, which was only a very small piece of the pie. When, before I learned all of this, I always thought government survived on taxes, fines, and fees. I thought that was their income. If you look at a budget report, it shows where the taxes are brought in and where they're spent. But that's only a selective grouping of accounts. The annual financial report, or as government did, they put one word at the front of it, calling it a comprehensive annual financial report, shows the cumulative wealth, the total gross income for the year from all sources: tax income, investment income, enterprise operation income. And when you decipher any large entities, CAFR now, city, county, state, school district, only 1/3 of the gross income comes in from taxation. 2/3 of the gross receipts comes in from return on investment funds, enterprise and venture projects. So the public was kept in the dark. The syndicated media was included in with the disclosure. The annual financial reports were sent to all of the networks, all of the primary papers, for the last 35, 40 years. And it was done so to be able to pull off the biggest game in town, which is to hold back your annual financial report and promote selectively created budget reports, which would put any public corporation, the CEOs in San Quentin, after a 30-count indictment for non-disclosure. Government's doing the same now. They needed the full cooperation of the syndicated media and controlled education in a symbiotic relationship, not to mention a word, not to mention a peep, because if the public ever got a clue that government, as they were screaming poverty on one side, was taking over everything on the other side, the revolt would have started the following day.
And I want to be clear, when we're talking about government and government ownership of corporations, let's be clear on who we mean by the government. Who is the government? If you could just clear that up for us, and then we'll finish up.
Yeah, another thing most people don't realize, your city is a corporation now. Your county is a corporation, separate corporations.
But who owns those corporations?
They're acting as a conglomerate. Okay. With the federal having the biggest thumb for the local governments to maintain policy and what direction they're going. There's probably about 20 different associations that have created. Even the annual financial report, it's GFOA, Financial Officers Association. The League of Governors, League of Mayors.
So we're not talking about the president. We're not talking about your congressman. We're not talking about your local mayor. We're talking about the people that bought and paid for our government long ago, putting out this scam in order to continue to enrich themselves by pretending to be the government, when the government is really we the people. I mean, I guess we would have a good lawsuit here to recover our assets, which are now the government's assets.
Well, right now, people look at the elections and voting. From what I've seen over the last 15, 20 years, only the candidate that they want you to vote on is put up for you to vote on. the best. You never see them. They're blacked out by the syndicated media, so you don't know.
Because they might find out about this whole scam, this little Ponzi scheme that our guest today, Walter Burien, is talking about. CAFR1.com, CAFR1.com. He has put out tons of information over the years about the comprehensive annual financial report. No one to date has been able to challenge him on this. It cannot be debunked. He has the actual reports.
I have the link for downloading the Federal Reserve annual financial report, which gives a list of all the players, the monies they're floating back and forth, their addresses, names, and the whole 9 yards. The more informative report, though, I put out yesterday, which was from the U.S. Treasury Department. It was their showing of derivative positions held by the primary banks. Now, J.P. Morgan was king. You can download that report also from my site, or else you can put the link up on your site also. When you go down about two-thirds through the report, below the graphs, it comes up to the table, the data of table information. When you look at J.P. Morgan, it shows them as having net assets of $1.4 trillion. Guess how much they were rolling over in derivatives?
I heard the number somewhere around $100 trillion to $200 trillion.
Well, it's just right at $90 trillion. So here's a company with a net capitalization worth of $1.4 trillion, who's rolling over $90 trillion in derivatives. Then the second one was Citigroup, third Bank of America. And the key point here is, the unrestrained money that was building and the conquest by government over the marketplaces and so forth. This is phenomenal, transaction that's taking place on a daily basis as they play their games. They can roll the market up, they can roll the market down. I don't care whether it be gold, silver, the stock market. Moving in concert with each other, they can liquidate everyone else of their revenue. And they have been doing so in the last 10 years as a monopoly. But what you're seeing now is a consolidation of ownership. They're knocking out all of their small independent players, putting the squeeze on them, taking them over at pennies on the dollar. Look at what just happened to Lehman Brothers. You had Barclays come in and take them over at pennies on the dollar. Or Merrill Lynch. Merrill Lynch was just taken over by Bank of America.
I'd say it was slick, but it's criminal is the thing. It's a crime. These are financial crimes of the highest order perpetuated against the American people and the people of the world, quite frankly.
Right, and if they can get away with it without a problem, which they have so far, they'll continue to do so. Look at the money involved. They're consolidating ownership, and when all said and done, they're going to have 4 or 5 institutions that are going to be running the whole show.
Which was the point, to centralize this beyond the grasp of the activists, of the people out there like us, Walter, who are trying to tell the truth. Now, if people go and they get the news out about the CAFR, the, again, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, how can this help affect the situation we're in now? People were to get this out everywhere. What would be the result?
I hear so many people saying, well, I can't understand this. This is too big and too whatever. Well, the bottom line is, you get the information out to 1,000 people. 500 may say, this is not the TV guide. And some would say, this looks interesting, look at it. And 30% can say, well, I really can't make heads or tail of this. It's that 10 or 15% factor. That's sharp enough to, I never knew this was going on. Hey, honey, take a look at this. We have a self-insurance fund for our city, which they've funneled $150 million into. Our pension funds are overfunded by 2 to 3 times when they're saying they're at a shortfall. We have a self-repayment account for all of our debt for our state, and they have more in their repayment account than their total debt. They could have discharged the debt 5 years ago. It's those sharp little crackers that sit down and decipher and start catching the points who never knew. They're going to make a difference. The 90% factor who, can't do anything with it or, can't understand it, oh, well, but that 10% factor, they become a formidable force.
Yes, we've been paying the money that they have used to make these investments to enrich themselves. Again, this goes into who's really controlling the government and reaping the benefit of this.
It's organized crime.
It is, and
it's organized crime on a corporate level.
We could expose why we're going to all these wars, because they own the military-industrial complex, or actually it's the other way around if we go deep down the rabbit hole, and we could stop all of this madness.
Pull up one of the state's pension fund CAFRs. Pension fund CAFRs are excellent to look at because it lists every investment, when it was purchased, current market value. As you go down the list of thousands of domestic and international companies, it pops right out at you, the number one profit maker, the oil companies. 600-700% profit. Take a look at the balance sheets. They may say this. They pick out one or two examples out of tens of thousands. Oh, my God, look at this. We messed up. Where they don't mention the other 99%, which have been in the black every single year for the last 30 years. No matter any accounting report I looked at regarding their profits, government has always been in the black every single year, including after 9/11. They took a little dip and then came right back. What they're doing is they're using the public's funds to bail out their own investments, government investments that the public never knew existed in the first place.
That we knew.